Yaba Lagos. He was also a member of the Robo Social Club Lagos and Robo Progressive Union. His hobbies include tennis, football, etc. His passion for academic excellence and human capital development saw the training of over 42 university graduates who are today at various fairs in human development all over the world. The likes of Dr. Soko, whose brilliance shone like a million stars, come only once in a lifetime. He was a true legend of his time and not in his mind. Antiquity would have raised altars to his mighty genius. No wonder he was fondly called by his admirers in a very vibrant global social firemen, sportsmen and women, sports administrators, the very robust Nigerian sporting press, sports persuaders, oil magnates, legal luminaries, and his peers both in the medical field and political circuit as bright. This was a reflection of his antecedents, intuitive scholarship, erudite, and sound mind. This rare human being, the man, the myth, the legend, Dr. Olorugu Ebiwe Soko, is a man of all seasons and a true, sure inductee of Nigeria's Medical Hall of Fame. To the God be the glory to Nigerians, give to the world Africa's true giant who stood like an imitable colossus amongst the contemporaries. May his gentle soul rest in peace. And with the leave of the House, we humbly urge that we have a 1-minute silence to honor this great legend. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. As is the custom of the House, may we please rise to observe a minute silence in honor of the departed former leader of the House. And may his gentle soul rest in perfect peace. Amen. Chairman, Rules and Business, could you please move that we suspend our rules to take more than 2 matters of urgent public importance?
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, my name is Edward Pojok. I represent the South of East. May I move that we suspend our rules to enable the House to take more than 2 matters of urgent public importance. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Chika, second, please. Now you are demoted to acting deputy leader because the permanent acting leader is around. So
that's what I said. So I will change my. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Abubakar Chika Adamu, acting deputy leader of the House for today.
Yes.
I wish to second the motion as ably presented by Chairman Rules and Business, Honorable Pajo, that we can take more than 2. To suspend our rule to take more than 2 matters of urgent public importance. I so second, Mr. Speaker.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. We'll first take from Honorable Chinda. Then Sani Zoro should get ready, Mark Bila, and Solomon Mare. First, Honorable Chinda, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues. Kingsley Chinda. I represent Obiabo Federal Constituency. I'm an Ikore man from Rivers State. My dear colleagues, Mr. Speaker, I rise to move that we come under Order 8, Rule 4, and Rule 7 to allow that we take a matter of urgent public importance that has to do with the life of a Nigerian. My dear colleagues, I will urge us never to get tired of discussing issues that has to do with the lives and property of Nigerians. During the election again, A very promising Nigerian, a doctorate degree, Dr. Jerry Berebere, was shot and killed by men of the Federal SARS that are clearly identified. My dear colleagues, there is no other place to run to. Of course, you know the issues of going to court to litigate over it. I will pray that we see this as one life that we can discuss, take steps to ensure that we forestall further occurrence of this kind of issues. He was a lecturer in the State Polytechnic and volunteered to do the job of a returning officer for this country, and he lost his life in course of that assignment. I think that that life of a Nigerian, whoever, wherever, and whenever, is urgent and important enough for us to discuss this morning and arrive at a resolution that at least bring some sort of succor for the family in particular and Nigerians in general. I therefore urge that we see this as a matter that is urgent and important enough for us to discuss this morning. I so move and pray that you support my application. Thank you.
Seconded to the motion that the matter is urgent. Honorable Frederick.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues. Gbedi Yetemina Frederick is my name. I represent Sabama Kirimo Federal Constituency. I am from Bayelsa. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I rise to second the motion as ably moved by Honorable Chinda. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. We have already suspended the rules, so Honorable Chinda can now just go ahead and move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues. The motion is on the urgent need to investigate the murder of Dr. Ferry Berebere and other unarmed civilians by men of the Federal Special Anti-Robbery Squad, FSAS, and the Nigerian Army in Rivers State. The House notes that the Independent National Electoral Commission, in line with its statutory mandate, recently conducted the Presidential and National Assembly elections on 23rd of February 2019, whilst the governorship and state houses of assembly elections held on 16th March 2019. The House also notes that during the said elections, there was palpable presence of heavily armed men of the security agencies, including the Federal Special Anti-Robbery Squad, FSAS, and the Nigerian Army in several places across the country, including Rivers State, and clear cases of harassment and intimidation of voters and electoral officials, and sporadic shootings by men of the security agencies with the aim to instill fear in the people. The House further notes that there was reports and viral video clips of cases of intimidation, harassment, torture, and shooting to death of innocent unarmed civilian voters by men of Federal SARS and the Nigerian Army in several parts of Rivers State. The House is aware that the government owes its citizens the duty of protecting and securing their lives as enshrined in Section 14(2)(b) and 34(1) of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The House is also aware that on about the 9th day of March 2019, at Kana Local Government Area Collation Center, Dr. Ferry Berebere, a lecturer with the Kensarawa Polytechnic, Bori, in Rivers State, was shot in his lower abdomen by men of Federal SARS, led by ACP Akim Fakorede, and he died few days later from the gun wound. Also at Degema, one Mrs. Ibisiki Amakri was shot dead by men of the Nigerian Army. The House is further aware that the Nigerian Army has no mandate to participate in elections, which is a purely civilian exercise under the provisions of Sections 217, 2A to D of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The House is worried that the recent killings of innocent unarmed civilians in Rivers State by men of the Federal SARS is one too many in cases of extrajudicial killings across the country and ought to be investigated. The House is concerned that the killings, if not immediately checked, could lead to anarchy and in turn negatively affect society and cause despondency in the minds of teeming civilian masses. The House is also concerned that the said killing by men of Federal SARS is not only callous and inhuman, but has also adversely affected and reduced the image and reputation of the force before the rest of the world and indeed compromised our national security. Consequently, the House is urged as follows. 1, to observe a minute silence in honor of the deceased, Dr. Ferry Weregbe. 2, to condemn very strongly the killing of Dr. Ferry Weregbe, Mrs. Ibisiki Amakri, and scores of others by men of federal SARS. 3, mandate the House Committee on Army, Human Rights and Justice, as well as Police Affairs, to investigate the matter and report back to the House within 2 weeks for further legislative action. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I so move.
Honorable Akinlade.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is Adekunle Abdulkabir Akinlade, the member representing Egbado South Ipokia Federal constituency. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion as ably moved by my colleague. Thank you. So second.
Honorable Chinda, you may now lead the debate.
Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I am not unaware that this House has debated several issues that has to do with security and threat of lives and property of Nigerians, including issues that came out of the elections that we just conducted. However, the case before us this morning is specific. It's a matter that has to do with named persons. It's not a general matter. And therefore, I have singled it out that we look at this specific issue, this case of the killing of Dr. Jerry Weregbe, a lecturer in the Ken Saro-Wiwa Polytechnic, which has come up even on national television, where a citizen of this country indeed alleged that it was a home video, a movie, and was not real. And so there is need, my dear colleagues, for us as members of these green chambers to continue to give confidence to the people we represent out there. The life of one Nigerian is as important as the life of any other Nigerian. And so when it happens to anybody, within our own knowledge, I think that we should rise up and take steps. The simplest thing I have called on this House to do is to set up a committee, particularly our standing committees, to look at the case of the murder of this Nigerian, who is a lecturer, a doctorate degree holder, with a family, a young family, whose family has been crying for justice. Let our committees look at his case, investigate it, and come back to this House with their findings, and then we can take a final resolution on the matter. I would therefore urge you to please support this motion and let our committees carry out their statutory functions. Thank you, my dear colleagues.
Any contributor, Honorable Frederick?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues. Agbedi Yetemne Frederick is my name. I represent Sagbama Ikirimo Federal Constituency. Izonkeme, I am from Bayelsa State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, it is very sad that somebody who has been brought up well by his parents, spent a lot of resources, time, and has gotten to the level of a PhD holder, lecturing in an higher institution, contributing enormously to the development of our children, was cut down in a manner that makes a lot of other Nigerians, when you invite them to render this kind of service, we feel that it is not worth it. It is so discouraging, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. What is it? How much is a returning officer or a collation officer or a presiding officer paid in this national service that we as Nigerians have volunteered in one way or the other to serve? Not much. It's a paltry sum. And at the end of the day, a family loses a loved one. A woman loses her husband. Children has lost their father. It's very painful, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. And why is this? Because in the name of wanting to ensure that there is peaceful election, in the name of saying that armed policemen, armed soldiers are going after ballot box snatchers and all that, they veer off to commit acts that are so ugly, so terrible, that it puts a lot of families in mourning. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, several lives were lost in the last election, as has been alluded to by the mover of this motion. how do we stop this? How do we put an end to this? Because in November 2nd, 2 other governorship elections are coming. And what will be the signs that we are going to see in those elections? Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, the laws are that policemen should be in charge of these elections. The laws are that those are polling units should not carry arms. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, the laws are that those arm-bearing security men should stay away from polling points. I can't imagine if those rules, those laws are complied with, how would a policeman, how would SARS, or how would an army man, get access to the critical areas where election materials are either being collated or conducted and shut down an officer who is serving this nation for just paltry sum, rendering himself to service of this nation. Mr. Speaker, it's very bad that this is still continuing, and it shows how primitive we are still as a nation. And so I want to support this motion in its entirety and urge that this House takes steps that is going to halt this killing of innocent people, killing of people that have subjected themselves to serve this nation in even very difficult situations, Mr. Speaker. And in that respect, I urge members of these chambers to support this motion in its entirety. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Toby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is Toby Okechukwu. I represent an area of Woji River Federal Constituency from Enugu State. Mr. Speaker, it does not give us any comfort to say or to witness any Nigerian being mowed down, particularly on the line of duty. The killing or the murder of Ferry Berebe of the Ken Saro-Wiwa Polytechnic will go down in history as one of the infamous and most irresponsible action that is taken by any law enforcement agency of government. You will appreciate that this lecturer who has a PhD was actually working for the Nigerian state. He was a staff of INEC. At that particular time, he was working. He was on duty to undertake a civil responsibility which had been mandated by INEC for him to do. He was an ad hoc staff of INEC. He was not a partisan person. So what would be the reason why a Nigerian citizen who wants to live up to the spirit and letters of our Constitution and our electoral laws, why would he be mowed down? INEC is vicariously responsible for exposing him to that risk. And this committee should be able to interrogate INEC on the steps they have taken so far in making sure they have a finding to what has happened to their own staff. So it's not just an ordinary person that's just being mowed down. This is somebody on the line of duty. So, Mr. Speaker, it does not give anybody any comfort that in Zamfara we have people killed. It does not give us any comfort that in Katsina, as at yesterday or day before, they said about 3 people have been killed. It does not give us any comfort there is violence in Sokoto, nor in Ebonyi, where people have been killed. Not in Agatu, not even in Anambra State. Birnin Ngwari is a very notorious case. There's no speech or any representation or opinion I've expressed here that I've not mentioned Birnin Ngwari, because I was actually performing an oversight function with my committee members. And we were advised not to go there.
Nigerian legislators, Committee on Works, they were advised not to go and oversight the road being done because we'll be exposed to risk in a Nigerian territory. That was 3 years ago. The situation has not abated. And now you are talking about somebody in the course of an election, and you see, and it was captured on video. And people have the temerity to come on television to say it's home video. Where is Nigerian conscience? Where are we going to from here? That people will assume that it's home video, that the Nigerian citizens, and the confirmation of his presumed home video is that the man is gone. He's dead. Probably it's still home video. How I wish it is. So, Mr. Speaker, it is very, very important that this Committee on Army takes this responsibility seriously. And I would want them to go deeper and look at the officers that have been mentioned. If they can't get the person who pulled the trigger, somebody is commanding that team that went there. And what were they doing there? Let us even say, why didn't they attack partisan people or people who are doing violence? But this is a man hired by INEC, Mr. Speaker. We want to know the reason detail for his being shot. We must make findings so that it serves as a deterrence for any future activity in that direction. There are other people who have been cut. In fact, I was watching that video and somebody was shot on his leg and he was limping. On video. How I wish it's really home video. But Mr. Speaker, we must begin to interrogate our values and the responsibility of our men and women who put our uniform and protected under the law to carry out their duties. So I want to support this motion, and it should be seen and observed and carried out in a way and manner that builds confidence for all of us who are inhabitants of this republic. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Mohammed Sani Zoro.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I remain Mohammed Sani Zoro. I'm from Jigawa State. Honorable Speaker, my dear colleagues, in supporting this very motion, I also want to share my concern.
Sorry, Honorable Sani Zoro, I want to announce that there's a demonstration going on at the gate by FCC indigenous residents, and I've appointed the chairman FCT committee, chairman police, and chairman road safety was here. I can't find him. I think he should be on the floor. The three of you should go and address them now. We received the petition only today, and as the House of the People, will definitely work on the petition. But there's need for the three of you to go and address them. Honorable Sani Zoro, continue, please.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. My dear colleagues, I also want to share in the concern about the rampant killings, the unnecessary loss of lives of our citizens, which seem to characterize the conduct of our law enforcement agents every now and then. Now, one would have thought between 1999 to date, 20 years of practicing democratic rule, we would have attained a stage where we have violent or violence-free elections. The entire processes should have been violent-free by now. But it appears to me that every election cycle is characterized by violence and more violence, consuming innocent citizens of this country, political actors, as well as staff of the election management body, as it is in this case. Honorable Speaker, this suggests also that law enforcement, or the name law enforcement in Nigeria, is fast being replaced with death enforcement. It appears to me that law enforcement officers look like seeing their job as a license to kill and go. And it is only in Nigeria that I know a section of the law enforcement sector is being branded as kill and go. We cannot continue with this kind of mentality. It is dangerous in the Committee of Nations when leaders are asked to be accountable to law itself, when we are supposed to be accountable to the Constitution that guarantees life and property, but we seem to be turning a blind eye to this very important constitutional responsibility to which we have sworn to protect at all times. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I want us to view this particular incident with all the seriousness and the sensitivity that it deserves. Every day at this hallowed chamber and in the public sphere generally, the incidences of extrajudicial killings are the norm. In the social media, you always come across gory sights of Nigerians that have been murdered, not only from the sort of conflicts and generalized violence that the last speaker has talked about, but those that are being mowed down by law enforcement officers without any investigations, without any consequence going on. So, Honorable Speaker, I think this is an opportunity to come very hard on this trend that is unacceptable, that is irresponsible, and is incompatible with our own humanity as well as conscience. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Last contributor, Honorable Ihama.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. I remain Ubede Ihama. I represent the people of Oredo Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Edo State. Mr. Speaker, I felt the need to add my voice to this very painful and pathetic motion moved by Honorable Chinda. Like every other speaker said here today, Mr. Speaker, I want to completely align, but to stress that representing the people in any form, either in the parliament, at the local government level, or even at the state or presidential level, it's not a do or die affair. Power comes from God. But in Nigeria today, it has turned to a situation where even guns, killings, because people seek power at all costs. Mr. Speaker, I want to completely support this motion and to urge this House that the relevant committees should take swift action because, like Fred Agbedi said, elections are coming in November. We saw what happened in Rivers State, like in other states, even in Bauchi State. Edo State also has election next year. So we must begin to take real measures. And for the federal government, whose primary duty, very key duty, is to secure lives and property of its citizens, I'm yet to still read or hear any formal statements from the presidency on the murder of this innocent Nigerian, a father, a family man, whose family today will be grieving the loss of their father or their husband, because the Nigerian army, who has no business with election, decided to be trigger happy on election day. Mr. Speaker, I think this should serve as an opportunity to put a final stop to this. As representatives of the people, we do not know who. We all face elections. We do not know who the next victim will be. And for all those that volunteer on ad hoc basis, especially our lecturers, we also do not want to put them in a situation like today. A lot of youth corpers decline to work for INEC during elections because of situations like this where their safety cannot be guaranteed. So this is a very serious matter, and as a responsive parliament, representative of people, we will speak on behalf of Nigerians here today and ensure that we do not only follow the prayers, but also call on the presidency to please take this matter as very important and also address this issue. Those responsible for this in uniform must not go unpunished. We read on TV and we saw on TV where Mr. President said the killer of the young man in Lagos must not go unpunished. We want him to come out and also say those that killed this lecturer who has come out on a national assignment for Nigeria must also not go unpunished, so that when issues like this are taken seriously and offenders are punished, in the future, I think all those that are opportune to have firearms will not be trigger happy. So I support this motion wholeheartedly, and I urge all other colleagues to support it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Next point of order is from Honorable Mohammed Sani Zoro.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, my dear colleagues. Once more, I remain Mohammed Sani Zoro. I represent Gumel Gagarawa, Suletan Karkar and Megateri Federal Constituency in Jigawa State. Right Honorable Speaker, I rise under Order 8, Rule 4, like my colleague, to move for the suspension of our House rules in order to entertain a matter of very urgent public importance. Honorable Speaker, my dear colleagues, this will be the third time in the history of the 8th Assembly that I will come with this same matter about a Chinese company that has illegally acquired 20,000 hectares of our farmlands, dispossessing and rendering more than 4,500 villagers as internally displaced persons. And this is against the general principles of the United Nations against internal displacement, as well as the African Union Convention for the protection as well as assistance to internally displaced persons that prohibits the circumstance that brings about internal displacement itself. Honorable Speaker, the fact of the matter is that this Chinese company, which is a multinational, has displayed every arrogance and has also shown incredible audacity to test the will of Nigerians, especially their leaders, that they can do whatever they like, they can buy their way, they can even meddle and dabble into the electoral processes of Nigerians. Honorable Speaker, the picture is very, very grave, in the sense that not only in Jigawa State, there is ample evidence that in other states like Kano, Niger, Bauchi, which they are now going into, they may have grabbed no less than 500,000 hectares of land. This is land grabbing, and by a foreign concern in whose country you cannot get an inch of property.
Honorable Mohamed Sani Zoro, are you leading the debate or just moving? You're just supposed to give us
Yes, sir.
just a highlight of what you want to do, and to request that the House adopt it as urgent, after which you can now move the motion and lead the argument. But you are going into the substance of your motion.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I'm guided. This is the highlight of the motion, and I request that my honorable colleagues consider this matter as very urgent and in the public interest. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
So the rules have been suspended. The only motion on the floor now is that the matter be accepted as urgent, after which you will move any seconder to that motion. He said it, you were justing with, you are sports personalities of the year, Honorable Goni and Honorable Midran. You were discussing sports, so you didn't hear him. Any seconder? Honorable Kani.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Respected colleagues, Benjamin Ikani Okolo. I represent the Kina-Bassa Federal Constituency of Kogi State. As a Speaker, I rise to second the motion as moved by Honorable Sani Zoro, that the motion is of urgent importance and the House should take it. Thank you so much.
Those in favor of the motion that the matter is urgent and should be discussed today, say aye. Those against it, say nay. Ayes have it. Honorable Sani Zoro, you can now move your motion, after which you lead the debate.
Thank you, Most Honorable Speaker and the People's Speaker. The House, concerned by the renewed harassment, intimidation, and detention of helpless peasant farmers by a contingent of anti-riot policemen deployed to Gaya Warmalam, Garin Churoma, Kora Sabwa, Nani, and other villages and farmlands at the behest of a Chinese company called Northern Agribusiness Limited, even as the forcible acquisition of 20,000 hectares of their ancestral farmlands remained the subject of litigation at the High Court of Justice, Jigawa State. Aware that the act of massive land grabbing under the guise of developmental projects has been a principal source of internal displacement everywhere and prohibited by both the UN Guiding Principles Against Displacement and the African Union Convention for the Protection and Assistance of IDPs, both of which Nigeria is signatory to, conscious of the fact that no Nigerian citizen would be allowed to dispossess Chinese of their own land in China, and therefore as a patriotic Nigerian citizen and a legislator, it is part of my constitutional responsibility to defend the interests of my country and its people, even at the expense of threats to my own life. Further aware that the lead group of companies, of which Northern Agribusiness Limited is a member, has so far grabbed no less than 100,000 hectares of farmlands in its predatory activities in Jigawa State alone, and most of which has only been fenced in the last 8 years without utilization by Nigerians or the Chinese invaders themselves. Alarmed that this Chinese company may have dispossessed Nigerians of an estimated 500,000 hectares worth of farmlands, according to private investigations into its unacceptable activities in Jigawa, Kano, Bauchi, and Niger states alone, without regard to Nigeria's ever-growing teeming population and pressure on our land resources. This House worried that the indigents of Gagara local government, which is the place of my birth, are 99% Muslims whose lives are regulated by Sharia personal law, such as the law of inheritance, among other customary laws recognized by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, and that the so-called takeover of our farmlands, villages, and hamlets is in direct clash with the Nigerian Constitution as well as the divine laws of God Almighty. Aggrieved that the affected peasant farmers have not been given suitable and alternative farmlands or were forced to receive paltry compensations as low as 3,000 naira, or have been swindled by local collaborators and state authorities, including officials of Jigawa State and Gagara local governments respectively, which is contrary to the provisions of the Land Use Act, and that these facts have since been established by the Jigawa State Police Command as part of criminal investigations. The House now resolves to call on the Inspector General of Police to order for the immediate withdrawal of the contingent of anti-riot policemen, alias Kill and Go, from the peaceful villages, hamlets, and farmlands of the affected villages in order to forestall the unnecessary killing or maiming of innocent lives and destruction of our property, as well as put a stop to the harassment and intimidation of my that the Inspector General of Police should render the police report that investigated complaints of bribery and corruption associated with the so-called compensation exercise earlier conducted by state and local authorities regarding the matter. That we invite the board and management, that is, the House should invite the board and management of Messrs. Lee Group, whose head office is situated at Jogana in Kano State, to appear before an ad hoc committee of the House of Representatives for full disclosure and defense of its massive land-grabbing activities, especially in Jigawa, Kano, Bauchi, and Niger State, or any other states for that matter, under the guise of direct foreign investment, while causing mass displacement of Nigerians and enslaving Nigerians in labor camps. That in view of the appearance of Lee Group of companies on the infamous list of Panama Papers as artful tax dodgers worldwide, the company's tax receipts and expatriate workers be scrutinized to ascertain if they had been shortchanging our tax authorities over the years or engaging serving prisoners, Chinese prisoners, under the pretext of being expatriate staff. We further call on the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offenses Commission, ICPC, and the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, to investigate the allegations of massive bribery, corruption, and money laundering leveled against local, state, and federal collaborators, no matter how highly placed. Honorable Speaker, my dear colleagues, with a view to uncovering the extent to which the company may have aided and abetted acts of money laundering, economic sabotage, and bribery and corruption on our soil. I so move. The right honorable Speaker. Thank you very much.
Seconder. Honorable Bila.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My very honorable colleagues, Mark Tese Bila, representing Gwe East, Gwe West Federal Constituency of Benue State. I rise to second the motion ably moved by Honorable Sani Zoro. I so second.
Honorable Sani Zoro, you may now lead the debate.
Thank you very much, the Right Honorable Speaker, my dear colleagues. Once more, Sani Zoro. On this very matter, Honorable Speaker, I'm afraid that the consensus in Nigeria, nay Africa, is that Chinese state-owned companies are actually and have constituted themselves into an invasion force. While here in Nigeria, we make claims that an insurgent group like Boko Haram does not control any territory in Nigeria, a Chinese company is in control of massive hectares of land, which they have acquired through crooked means, through illegal means, and in manners that are reprehensible and unacceptable to the Nigerian establishment. The Honorable Speaker, it may interest you to note that the Chinese have a method of bringing in law enforcement agents to enforce this illegality, as it is in this case. As I speak to you, what constitutes the urgency in this matter is that sometime last week, they got a police contingent wielding guns at the site of protesting farmers who have not been given any compensation, while the Chinese companies roll out massive equipment to go and clear their farmlands, their graveyards, Fulani hamlets, and so on and so forth. People naturally protest, and then they are taken away by the police. Only last Monday, I was in Dutse, the capital of Jigawa State, to bail some of my compatriots who were detained simply because they held a peaceful resistance because of this action. They have done it elsewhere. And in some of these places, especially in Jigawa State, in Grawal, where they have a massive place, they only fence up the land. For the last 8 years, they have not used that land. They have not utilized it. In Kano, just next to the police academy, left and right, this same company has acquired over 60,000 hectares of land, which they have fenced in the last 6 years. Nobody is farming it. Ostensibly, they say they want to build a bakery to produce 1 million loaves of bread. How can you produce 1 million loaves of bread on 60,000 hectares of land? This is madness. And if they are to produce 1 million loaves of bread, what of local bakeries in Kano? What? They will be rendered useless? And we will tolerate this? Just next to Zuma Rock here, the same company has close to 80,000 hectares of land, which they have not been using in the last 15 years. They have made a foray in Bauchi where they are also prospecting. This is land grabbing that we cannot support. And it is for this reason that I pray to my colleagues and this honorable House to start investigating the conduct of these sort of companies wherever they come from, especially as multinationals. All talks of foreign direct investment that will constitute a sabotage on our economy and eventually enslave our people in labor camps, as it is shown in the companies owned by this Chinese group in Kano, where people were killed in one of his factories called Viva 2 years ago because they do not recognize Nigerian labor laws. Chinese companies all over Nigeria, all over Africa, they are just slave drivers. They do not respect Nigerian labor laws, and if their workers sustain injuries in the conduct of, in everyday work, they are simply dismissed. They give a maximum of 7,000 to 10,000 naira as wage. That is labor. That kind of wage is not acceptable to the Nigerian conscience that has just raised the level of minimum wage to 30,000 naira. Honorable Speaker, we have done private investigations that have established that this particular Chinese company, Mrs. Lee Group, whose headquarters is in Hong Kong, they are on the list, the infamous list of Panama Papers, which is a group of companies in the world that are tax dodgers. And that is why we need to investigate whether they have also been dodging their responsibilities as taxpayers here. In Jigawa State, as far as this issue is concerned, a clear case of bribery and corruption is when on 2 occasions they took officials of the government to China on fully paid expenses to and from China just to go and enjoy themselves. Just to go and enjoy themselves so that they will support this unacceptable land grabbing. And that is what they do everywhere. If you go to my state now, every government institution, including federal offices, are adorned with calendars of Nigeria Northern Agribusiness Concern, as if they are there for a takeover. And most unacceptable is the fact that when they were given this land, they had not conducted the environmental impact assessment that is necessary for this kind of project. Because in what they claim they want to do, they want to drag water from Hadeja Jama'are River Basin 13 kilometers to my village in order to supplement the irrigation of sugar cane. Honorable Speaker, there is no way sugar cane will develop in my own area because we are in a semi-desert arid region where the span of rainfall is less than 3 months. We normally experience crop failure year in, year out. And it is evident that the issue of growing sugarcane is normally done in where there is water bodies. That is where we know traditional sugarcane is grown, not in that area. Now they also say they will sink boreholes of about 1,500 meters deep. And according to an environmental impact assessment that I sponsored personally, it will render the entire water bodies, underwater bodies, useless. We will not have water to drink again in the next few years. It is for these and other reasons, because of the land grabbing activities of this company, the fact that they are bribing Nigerian officials to support this illegal conduct, the fact that we are in the Jigawa Court of Justice against what they have done, which is contrary to the Land Use Act, that says land can only be taken by government for public use, but not for profit use. And the Supreme Court has decided, there are so many decided cases to show that public purpose has been defined as construction of roads, hospitals, schools, stadium, and things that will benefit members of the public. But in this case, they are giving it to a private company that is going to make profit. And therefore, that cannot be public purpose. It is because of that that we are in court. Now, instead of the company to respect our laws and maintain the status quo ante, they now invite the police to go and radicalize, because by harassing innocent citizens, they are radicalizing them. And in order to avoid bloodshed or further bloodshed, especially in my own part of the country, where obviously life is cheap, people are just being killed anyhow, and they just say, oh, that's the end of your life, and that is all. I believe we have to arrest this trend as legislators who have sworn to protect lives and property. This is the most important thing that our responsibilities dictate. And to forestall the likelihood of these incidents, and in view of our experience whereby the law enforcement agents invite innocent peasant farmers and detain them for 27 days in the last 2 years, it is very, very important that we take the necessary steps as prayed for in this motion in order to avert a calamity. The Honorable Speaker, my dear colleagues, I thank you very much for your anticipated support in this direction. Thank you very much indeed.
Honorable Chika.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues. I'm Abubakar Chika Adamu. I represent Shoro Rafimuya Federal Constituency. I'm from Niger State. Mr. Speaker, let me lend my good support to the motion of urgent importance brought here before my dear brother, Honorable Sanizoro. Mr. Speaker, I want to advise and challenge the Ninth Assembly. Mr. Speaker, the Chinese behavior, the Chinese approach towards Nigeria is worrisome. Why did I say I'm challenging the Ninth Assembly? Our laws are very porous. Mr. Speaker, any foreigner can come to Nigeria, grab land, grab property, and the law does not check that excesses. But you cannot do it. Go to Ghana here as a Nigerian, attempting you want to buy a property or a land. It is not possible. It is not as porous as what we find in Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, today the Chinese are taking over almost every business activities in Nigeria. It may shock you to know that, Mr. Speaker, today we have Chinese that when you want to do the POP in your house, they come and do it. You want the scrading in your house, they will come and do it. People from Kano were at this chamber at so many occasions trying to raise issues that the Chinese are taking over the textile market in Kano. If the Chinese must participate in textile market, I think we should see them producing textiles in Nigeria, not trading in textile material. Mr. Speaker, we have to be very careful. The Chinese are pushing funds for us, undertaking the contract by themselves. Mr. Speaker, go and see the Abuja airport. Mr. Speaker, I was there. I was in a toilet. Mr. Speaker, the material even the Chinese are using in doing in producing the fund they brought to build our airport are substandard, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I was coming back from US through an Emirates airline last week, or sorry, this week, Monday. The attitude I saw about the Chinese, I think they are more proud to be Nigerians than you, because when you arrive at the airport, I think they have a lot of concession that you as a citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria do not have from the authorities. Mr. Speaker, if we allow it, I want to tell you, Mr. Speaker, go to the electrical market, electrical materials market, go to the plumbing market. Still today, you have the Chinese people trading, selling at retail price the electrical equipment and the plumbing equipment. Mr. Speaker, that will add to insecurity in Nigeria because they can buy directly from the industries in China and sell at a much cheaper rate than the Nigerians here. They are sending the Nigerians out of business. And I cannot see where a serious nation that want to protect its people, that want to protect the business of their people, will allow such excesses to happen. So if we don't do anything at the right time, I want to tell you, Mr. Speaker, Chinese will buy Nigeria, it will be their colony, and will no longer be proud of being Nigerians, but working under the colony of a Chinese masters. So we must do something, and this is the time, and I challenge, as I said earlier, Mr. Speaker, in my opening, I challenge the Ninth Assembly to produce laws that will stop these excesses. Where we don't, then, Mr. Speaker, we are sitting on a cake of a gunpowder. And by the time it will blast, we will all become history. Mr. Speaker, this is my take. Please, those who will be in the Night Assembly, I still want to appeal to you. Please check this so that we can have laws that will be able to protect the citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, not to make the Chinese and other colonial masters in Nigeria. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, my dear colleagues.
Honorable Goni Buka.
Right, Honorable Speaker Yakubu Dogara, initiator of Northeast Development Commission. My name is Honorable Goni Buka Lawan, member representing Burusari, Gaidam Yunusari. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm from Yobe State. My Speaker, honorable colleagues, I rise before you this afternoon to support the just motion led by Honorable Zoro. Mr. Speaker, sir, previous speakers have said the issues of Chinese government in this country is becoming worrisome. I have seen one in Kano. They acquired about 60,000 hectares of land just close to Kano. Mr. Speaker, our numbers are increasing. Day in, day out, our population are increasing. Why are we, allocating such a land to somebody who is just saying he's going to construct a, industry, while this thing is just a fake history? So to me, it is time for us to rise up and stop this kind of, illegality in this country. But we know the powers of land vested in governors and so on. Mr. Speaker, if we say that the powers are vested on them, definitely one day we will rise up, our children will rise up, they won't even get the, a land to build their houses. So to me, Mr. Speaker, it is time for us to rise up and say no to what is going on. And secondly, I have seen for Jigawa, about 500 people, lost their land. And in the name of they will bring, industry to that area. I went there, I went to Gumel, I have seen it. People are suffering. Most of them lost their farms. Where are they going? And this very gentleman, Honorable Zoro, is used to bring all these issues. This is the third time that he's presenting this issue to this House. And this House is the last hope of masses of this country. Mr. Speaker, please, I'm appealing to our colleagues. Let's support this motion. Let's give, a action to this motion. I so submit.
Honorable Comrade. Pardon?
Against.
Oh, you want to speak against?
Yeah.
Okay. Those speaking for first. Honorable Dr. M.S. Abdu.
Mr. Speaker, I just want to add my voice. And I don't want to look at it the way Honorable Dr. Mohamed Sani Abdu, Al-Kaleri Federal Constituency, I'm from Bauchi State. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that we have no reason to blame the Chinese for the invasion, either financial, project, physical, or whatever. We have every reason to blame ourselves. This is a country where we've started seeing ourselves as northerners and some as southerners. This is a country where we see ourselves as Igbos and Yorubas. This is a country where we don't want to patronize made in Nigeria goods because it is being made in Aba. This is a country where we have divided ourselves so much, we have truncated ourselves, that we are not, homogeneous. And I think until we do that, then we will be able to protect ourselves physically, economically, socially, and we can protect our cohort. This is a country whereby everybody just cares about his ethnocentricity and area. And now it is even becoming smaller, chiefdom by chiefdom. I don't blame the Chinese. They are being able to defeat all these primordial differences. And it's a national policy. It's a national, focus that they should go everywhere, and colonize. Why can't we protect ourselves from this post-colonialization? Why don't we, even the way we budget, it is apologetic. Must we be budgeting in trillions? Why don't we look at our economy and go to what we call the basics and start growing it small and we move forward? Because in reality, our budget we do in trillions, but the impact is in thousands. So go back to the basic. So personally, I have no apology to them. It is every country now is getting it right. We refuse to take this brotherhood that God has made, the variety of us to come together. What I don't have, somebody from Bayelsa has. What he doesn't have, somebody from Zamfara had, and so on, so that we can look at ourselves. Secondly, and importantly, sir, we are killing ourselves. We are maiming ourselves. In fact, I was just about to come out when I saw Honorable Chinda's matters of public importance, and I see the way it was being debated. I had to wait. I said I will not miss to the end of the debate. I said this is how to go. Everybody must support each other. We must hold hands to build a country, to build a nation that we will be proud of. However low we are, then we can grow together. It is our own fault. Everybody, and then the issue of corruption, it is endemic, it has eaten up us, and you see people, doing a lot of underground things. I think I don't blame the Chinese. They are protecting their national interests. We need to develop a nation with a national interest and fight it. That is what I think. Sir, if you look at it, about last week also, the World Bank had made a publication regarding all these loans that yesterday we were debating. Most of the Chinese loans that we have were engaging and getting, they do not meet up with the Paris Club standard. They do not meet up with the international standard. We need to look at all this. We need to be serious. It's not only an issue, as I had one of my colleagues saying, he's challenging the Ninth Assembly. It is beyond. It's a national problem. We need to have a national confab again. We need to do whatever we can do, whatever we think that will bring us together, and to have national cohesion, national this thing, and enjoy our own fruit and make national policies. Then we can start protecting, and we can grow in the right direction, and we can protect ourselves. Look at the issue of this rice. Is it only rice that we eat in Nigeria? Everybody is blowing the trumpet of rice. But yet, if you go to our markets today, Nigerian rice will be packaged into size packaging before people buy. It's a shame. We have to be honest. We have to be fair. It's beyond the assembly, but this is where it should be galvanized. That is the truth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support, but I am saying that we need, either within the assembly or not, the Nigerian elites needs to forge ahead. Whatever you want to call it, whether it's a national confab, whether it is a national discourse, whether it is, we must develop a pathway for Nigeria to move forward. This is my modest contribution to this debate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I think we'll have to bring this to a close. So we recognize those speaking against now. Against. We'll start with Comrade.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, my colleagues. Honorable Speaker, in the course of deliberations additional dimensions were brought into the main motion of Honorable Zoro. And therefore, I will restrict myself only to the main motion of Honorable Zoro that is talking about land confiscation in his own state and, of course, what he called anti-labor practices. First, I would like to crave the indulgence of my honorable friend, Comrade Zoro. We have a very robust relationship spanning to our days outside the House, but I must also not fail in also addressing issues as much as I know them. I do not have problem with the House taking a decision where the right and liberty of Nigeria or Nigerians is infringed upon. But I also needed us to be a bit careful and probably to find a time to find out and engage all stakeholders in Jigawa State as to what is really happening. I said this because this is about the third time Honorable Zoro will be bringing this matter before this Honorable House. But I also want us to scrutinize the economic status of Jigawa State. With all respect, one of the economically weak states in the Federation of Nigeria. And it is the desire of his own people, himself, I believe, and the people of Jigawa State, just like any other state in the Federation, to ensure rapid industrial development of our respective states. Jigawa do not have any industry that employed more than 100 or 200. The industry he's talking about as at present have capacity to engage over 10,000 Nigerians working in the place. And so far, people that are engaged in that place are over 5,000 and going. What we needed to ask ourselves is that, are there anti-labor practices? Are there rights and privileges of Nigerians, either of Jigawa or from anywhere, that is being infringed upon? What is the problem? Are we saying that foreign nationals should not come and invest in Nigeria? Certainly that should not be the answer. But if there are unwholesome practices, if there are questionable activities that are going, that should be the aspect that this House should focus. But for us to stand here each time and begin to argue that Chinese have come, and we are using the word confiscated, taken over, as if we have no authorities in this country, I apply that we should be a little bit careful. Let's investigate and find out. And there are stakeholders in Jigawa State, beyond members, that this House can engage and find out whether the people of Jigawa are actually in support of the existence of that industry or not. If the unanimity of position in Jigawa is to the effect that that industry and the investors are not wanted, then of course the House can act accordingly. But for us to continue to use primordials and what I would consider sometime, Honorable Speaker, issues that we want to turn and pitch investors against particular interests, I think we needed to be very, very careful. This is my other issues of Chinese taking over our businesses, that I can support, that we needed to do something. But for industry, investors to come and invest, grew up industry in the place, employ Nigerians, 5,000-10,000, and for we to say that is not warranted, I am unable to understand his logic, Mr. Speaker. So I needed us to tread carefully and to be on the side of objectivity.
Honorable Fred.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. Agbedi Yeitemina Frederick is my name. I represent Sabama Kremo Federal Constituency. I am from Bayelsa State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I rise to speak against this motion because, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, the reasons adduced for this motion are not very convincing enough, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. Nigeria has very robust relationship with the Republic of China. Nigeria goes to China all the time to borrow money. Nigeria has gone to China on roadshow for investors to come and invest in this country. Nigeria has a lot of infrastructural development that is going on in this country that is funded by the Chinese. Nigeria has benefited from even classrooms, both in the northern part of this country and other parts of this country, that are built as donations to schools, to states in this country. And of course, we have laws guiding investments. We have laws that guide the movement of foreigners in and out of this country. And is that the Chinese operating in Jigawa are illegal immigrants. Understandable. We have laws in this nation that deal with such illegal immigrants that come into this country. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, the issue here is that the Chinese are farming in Jigawa State. Who gave them the land? Did they seize the land from indigents? Did they seize the land from government? Did they seize the land from chiefdoms that own this land? It's a question for determination. And if that happened in that state, of course we have a government in that state that is alive to our responsibilities, that should have risen up to protect the interests of our people. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, there were Zimbabwean farmers in this country that state governments went into business with, invited. We have invited a lot of nations, a lot of farmers across the world who have expertise in farming to come and invest in various states and in our country. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, if these people have legitimate access to the lands in which they are farming, if they have legitimate access to establishing the factories that they have established that are employing people, then of course we don't have any reason to just throw them out through the window. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, the issue is if there are laws that these Chinese farmers are not complying with, both the states and the federal government, knowing which laws that they are not complying with, should be able to deal with these farmers based on the laws that apply to that situation. I don't think that it is right for us to wake up in this assembly and agree that there are farmers who are farming in Jigawa and we think that they are illegal migrants without knowing and getting the right information to how they got there or not. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, we'll be appearing as if we don't have the right information in dealing with issues that come before us. Mr. Speaker, I think that if the people's rights are trampled upon, if the people's rights are abused, there is a government sitting in that state that needs to deal with those issues. It is where and when they feel that these issues are not appropriately taken care of. We have public petitions committee in this assembly, in this house, that the people can petition to, that can investigate this matter and liaise with the state. But I think for us to come by way of an urgent public, matter of urgent public interest, and pass that motion to say that people, Chinese people are confiscating lands and all that in Jigawa State, I think we will be dealing with this issue from a wrong perspective. And I feel that this House should not pass this motion because it is not in our interest as lawmakers to just resolve that this is happening by way of this motion, because it is not clear to us that the Chinese people are immigrants, illegal immigrants in this country. It is not clear to us that they have confiscated land from people. It is not clear to us that what they are doing in that state is illegal. And so I urge this House to throw out this motion with the speed of light. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues.
I think we have to round up this debate, really, so that we can. Honorable Marin, your hand has been up for long.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My dear colleagues,
Engineer Solomon Maren is my name, and I represent all the people of Mangu Bokos Federal Constituency. I am from the home of peace and tourism, Plateau State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to lend my voice on this very important motion that was raised by my colleague. Mr. Speaker, my own observations on this motion are that one, I am afraid for us as a country that every day we talk about foreign and other direct investment into our country. And we are all aware that all these investments are supposed to create employment opportunities for our people. And as a parliament, I'm also aware of the fact that the Land Use Act has ceded most of our land to the states. And that if a governor of a state who is the custodian of the land within this state has found that investors who are coming into his state legitimately and he has apportioned land to them, I think we should respect such based on our laws. Because if you look at the operations of the Land Use Act, the custodian of the land is actually in the governor of the state. And for me, I think...
You're watching live proceedings from the House of Representatives here on the Nigerian Television Authority, the largest TV network in Africa. Motions of urgent public importance are being debated, and right now, lawmakers are debating a motion tabled by Representative Sani Zoro, requesting for the intervention of the House on allegations of illegal acquisition of farmlands by foreign concerns in Jigawa State. But I'm afraid that's the much we can bring to you this afternoon. I'm Lami Ali. We thank you for staying thus far with us, and thank everyone who contributed to the success of this transmission.